Strange Meeting was written by the British poet Wilfred Owen, and he had served as a soldier in the First World War. It was posthumously published, which means that it was published only after his death in 1919 in the war itself while serving on the West Front. In short, in this poem, we find the speaker here meets a soldier from the opposing army who reveals at the end of the poem that the speaker was the one who had killed him. The poem is deeply pessimistic as it reflects on the shared humanity of these two men and the broader horrors of war. Though the poem suggests that human beings aren't going to stop fighting anytime soon, it also calls for such violence to be replaced by reconciliation and solidarity. Now the text goes, "It seemed that out of battle I escaped down some profound dull tunnel." So it seemed as if he had escaped from the battle overhead that was going on ground, and he had left it and entered into a very deep, dark tunnel. Long since scooped through granites which titanic wars had groined. So this tunnel was carved out of the granite bedrock by some enormous wars in the past, which suggests that it was a war right now. Tunnel itself is the result of one of the wars which had been fought in the earlier times. So therefore, it shows that war has a history with mankind. Yet also their encumbered sleepers groaned. So even in the tunnel, he found people moaning and suffering, just like the same scenario which was going on overhead. Too fast in thought or death to be bestirred. So they were so deeply engrossed that in themselves that they were deeply asleep to be stirred, to be moved, that they can be easily said that they were dead rather. So either they were dead or lost in their own thoughts or in their pain, that they were ignorant or they did not notice the speaker or any other person around themselves. Then as I probed them, one sprang up and stared with piteous recognition in fixed eyes. So then as he poked and prodded, so as I is the speaker here, I probed them. So here the speaker, when he poked and prodded them, one of the sleepers jumped up and stared at him. And his eyes had fixed piteous recognition. So it seemed as if from his stare it was very evident that it seemed as if he had recognized the speaker. He had recognized the person who has woken up him, and he pitied this man. He pitied the speaker. Lifting distressful hands as if to bless. And he seemed to recognize, he pitied, and he even lifted his hands sadly, quite in vain, as if he was going to bless the speaker. And by his smile I knew that sullen hall. By his dead smile I knew we stood in hell. And therefore he says, I could tell from his lifeless smile, his plastic smile, his empty smile, that the dark hall in which we stood was hell itself. With 1,000 fears that vision's face was grained, yet no blood reached there from the upper ground. So one could easily make out, could see all the fear etched into his face. So he was so fear-stricken that it was evident from his face, from his look itself, even though none of the blood or violence from the battle up above reached the hall where they were standing at that time. And no guns thumped or down the flues made moan. Strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. So you couldn't hear even the artillery firing down there. The guns didn't make the chimneys in the hall groan. Strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. The speaker, he said to this man, there's no reason to be sad down here. Here is no violence, then why are you so fear stricken and so mournful? None, said that other, save the undone years, the hopelessness. So he said, true, there is no reason except for all the years I have missed out on and the loss of hope. As if he has realized now, standing at this point of time, that he has wasted all his life, his time, his energy, and he has invested him rather wrongly. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. I went hunting wild after the wildest beauty in the world, which lies not in not calm in eyes or braided hair, but mocks the steady running of the hour, and if it grieves, grieves richlier than here. So he says that you and I had the same hopes. I threw myself into seeking the most beautiful thing in the world, which is not physical beauty. This beauty makes fun of time as it steadily passes by, as it is fleeting, and none can stop it. If this beauty is sad, its sadness is so much richer than the sadness. So it is not the search for happiness, not the search for beauty, physical beauty that lies in a maiden's beauty, but he is talking about truth, which lies not in calm eyes or braided hair, but mocks the steady running of the hour. So, truth, the ultimate truth of life, that what have they done? Why were they involved in wars? And was there any truth behind these actions that they have taken so blindly for so long, for so many years that they have lived? So, he's talking about truth, the truth that no one talks about, the horror of war. War boiled down to its horrifying essence, the most horrifying scenario, or the result, the most horrific conclusions. And since we are dead, we know that how horrible a war is, and there is nothing or no amount of heroism should be attached, or no amount of greatness should be actually attached to war and fighting and killing each other. But we are not there in the human world anymore, that we can dismantle the very concept of war, or we can reveal the truth, the ultimate truth, to the whole world, and therefore the living people will still be happy with destructive things. For by my glee might many men have laughed, and of my weeping something had been left which must die now. So he says that I have done many things, and people will be unhappy, and they will get so angry that they will keep fighting and killing each other until this truth is known to everyone. So again from line 14, if we say that strange friend, here is no cause to mourn. So the speaker is not afraid. The speaker is not afraid. He is not affected anymore by what is going on overhead, and he is happy that he has escaped the bloodshed, the sounds of gunshots, no more hammer in his ears, and they are out of the battlefield. So he is very happy and he is not afraid anymore, like the speaker, like the friend whom he has seen here or met him right now. So he asks his friend not to be afraid of the 1,000 reasons which they should have considered while being there on the ground overhead. He tries to calm down, to comfort the dead soldier or the friend in front. But the friend is sad. He is sad because he will never get back those years that he had invested. The time will never come back. That itself is the reason of all of his hopelessness and despair. He is feeling robbed for the years of his life, for the fleeting time, for the time that he has so wastefully spent. He says, that he had so many dreams, aspirations, hopes, desires, but everything was robbed of him. Everything, every desire, everything was left incomplete, and therefore he feels robbed, deceived, because what he was committed to, that itself, the reason itself, the cause itself, has robbed him and has left him with nothing, with only the sense of futility. So it was all farce. The very thing that had inspired him to be a part of these battles, the heroism that is associated, is all farce. So he says that he had spent his life, or he would have rather spent his life in the pursuit of wild beauty, but he was never able to continue with it, to move on with it, as his life was untimely cut short. So he talks about the eternal beauty, the beauty of peace, of truth, of the ultimate truth. He could not pursue after beauty, he could not achieve it, he could not know it, and even in this hell that he is there, still beauty, such a thing as beauty or truth, can neither be prevalent in the hell even. So he whatever he wanted to achieve in his life is left incomplete and can never be disclosed, can never be revealed, and his experiences shall never be able to help any living too. So that is the sense of utter futility. So he again says, he continues his list of regrets, and he says that if for by my glee might many men have laughed. So he could have made many people happier or happy, or could be the reason of others' smile, and for him being a part of their lives, when he was sad, they would have shared his sorrows with him. But everything that he is talking about right now should be dead, must be dead, because he himself is dead and can never return back to the world of the living. And therefore, he says, with his death, everything has died, everything has to die. The pursuit of beauty, the fun, the laughter, the sense of caring and sharing things with others, everything should die. And the truth that there is nothing in this war, in fighting, in violence, shall remain untold and be the cause of misery for many more to come. I mean the truth untold, the pity of war, the pity war distilled. So he says, it is pity, the truth of war, the truth behind this violence, the cause, the sorrow, the mourning, the suffering that should be associated with war, and nothing can glorify a war, and nothing can justify wars being fought, and therefore this terrible truth shall remain untold, because they can never go back to the world of the living to enlighten the others. So, war itself is not just a pitiful deed, a pitiful event, but it is much more than that. It has a much more deeper potential than that. That is, it has worse implications. It magnifies pity and it distills pity and sorrow, grief, suffering, everything multiplies to the umpteenth extent, to the much, much deeper and harsher extent than can be uttered and explained in words. So, no one talks about or has ever talked about this other side of the war, this side effect of the war, this consequence of the war. It always remains or always had remained a secret till now, which has revealed itself in the most saddening effect now to him when he is dead and lying in the hell. Now men will go content with what we spoiled. So since we didn't get to tell or reveal it to the people, how horrible, how terrifying a war is, and what its real implications are, real consequences are, people will still be happy with the destructive things our armies have done or shall do or have spoiled. So, the living shall still find some sort of victory even in this lost battle or even in this utter loss that we have engaged ourselves in and brought ourselves into. Or discontent boil bloody and be spilled, or they shall be unhappy and they shall be angry, aggressive, and they will keep fighting and killing each other to their heart's content till they themselves get to the point of experiencing the war, the adversities of war themselves, and reach their own end. They will be swift with swiftness of the tigress. So they will be swift, they will be fast, they will be as swift as a tigress while hunting people down. So hatred, violence, suffering shall keep on continuing in the world and shall never end. None will break ranks, though nations trek from progress. None shall speak out or disagree with their governments, even though those governments are moving their society deliberately away from progress, from the path of progress, rather than towards it. And the explanation, the excuse shall be for progress, for development. But ultimately, these are all false beliefs, false hopes that is instilled in the hearts of the living. Courage was mine, and I had mystery. Wisdom was mine, and I had mastery. So I was full of courage and mystery. I was full of wisdom and expertise. So the second speaker was actually looking back at his glorious past, and he accepted or confessed that while his life as a soldier, he felt that he was the most courageous and the most wise one. And he was lawful, and the fact that he was lawfully, sincerely carrying out his duty was all for the good. And that was his responsibility, that which should have been fulfilled with utmost sincerity and honesty. To miss the march of this retreating world into vain citadels that are not walled. But sadly, now he knows that war is actually a total waste, and he had been spending it so wastefully that now he is eternally doomed. So, no more he shall be a witness of this world which is retreating into vain citadels, which is moving forward towards its own doom, which is far, far on the adverse side or away from progress, any sort of progress or betterment. So we think that we have we have walled cities and citadels, and we are protecting others and our near and dear ones and every people within. But actually, these are all in vain, because we are not protecting, but we are pushing people into hell. Then, when much blood had clogged their chariot wheels, I would go up and wash them from sweet wells. So war destroys so much of the world that as they fight the previous real world or world as they knew it, it gets farther and farther away. And the soldiers are actually moving in the wrong direction. The soldiers are fighting for nothing. It won't get them anything in the end. No happy victory can ever be attained. And what they seemed that it would be their immunity, their protection, their fortress, it's all a hoax. Nothing can protect them from the damage of war that they themselves have brought. And the blood had clogged their chariot wheels, and he would go and wash them from sweet wells. So he said, it's also ironical that they themselves caused the bloodshed, and so much of bloodshed that it clogs their chariot wheels. They can't continue anymore. The fighting and the death rate reaches to such an extent that it takes a toll on the conscience of a soldier, and this overwhelming amount of blood that is shed shall keep these hands of the soldier ever tainted, and they shall never be able to wash off this dirt, this mark from their hand. So no amount of water can wash off their sins. No amount of good deed can ever give them a clear conscience ever, even with truths that lie too deep for taint. So it is only that the truth, if it were told, the profound truth can only protect them from being corrupted. And he just cries and wails at the hopelessness that he is failing in disclosing the truth to them and enlightening their minds. He could have saved these people, or the soldiers, the future soldiers, the living soldiers, from such a sin and from having such guilt and guilty conscience, that he could have protected them by revealing the truth and showing them the other side of the war, the truth, the ultimate truth behind all these wars being fought. But sadly, he cannot. He can neither take off their burden nor show them the right path. For the truth, this truth that he now knows, is too powerful, and truth is always too powerful to be tainted by even the most horrific battles fought. I would have poured my spirit without stint, but not through wounds, not on the cess of war. So the second speaker, he says, I would do everything possible, anything possible to help these people, to help the living, except for fighting, except for taking part in more horrible wars. So I would rather like myself and my life to have not been wasted by wars, and I would have poured everything, invested my everything, and would have readily given out my life. But not, definitely, life is too precious to be wasted and sacrificed for the cause of war, for the cause of any war. Foreheads of men have bled where no wounds were. So in war, even the innocent have bled. Even the people who aren't physically hurt, they too suffer intrinsically, mentally. The mental trauma that a person has to go through after being a part of a war. So he's talking about the mental and emotional anguish that is an irremovable part, indispensable part of a conscience of the soldier who has been a part of such huge amount of bloodshed and violence that he himself has committed, the lives that he has taken. All these take a toll on a soldier's conscience, a soldier's mind, which is too huge to be carried on. So in a way, he is himself disclosing the fact that even after dying, this pain, this guilt can never be done away with. I am the enemy you killed, my friend. I knew you in this dark, for so you frowned yesterday through me as you jabbed and killed. So he says, I am the enemy. You killed me, my friend. I recognized you in the dark. You had frowned on me in the same manner as you had frowned yesterday when you killed me with your bayonet, or with the knife, not actually knife. You can say it is actually the term which is bayonet. You can imagine it like a dagger that a soldier has with him in face to face combat. When they get too near a soldier or an enemy, they use it. I parried, but my hands were loath and cold. Let us sleep now. So I tried to fend you off, I tried to dodge, but my hands were slow and clumsy. And let's rest now, for we cannot do anything with our lives. We can neither save it, we can neither change it, and nor retrace our footsteps. We cannot turn back time, and what is left is this hell and eternity that we have to spend in this guilt of killing each other and many more. So the speaker, he discloses that yes, you had been talking about so much of war and the guilt, and I am too a reason of your guilt, a part of your guilt, because you had stabbed me yesterday. When he refers to the second speaker as friend, so it shows that after death, everybody is equal. Every dead soldier is no more an enemy, but they become the same. They return to the same. So the fate of a soldier is the same. So why these battles? After their death, they no more can distinguish themselves or any others as enemies, but they are friends, allies now, all fellow men, and damned to spend the rest of the eternity together in hell, sharing the same fate, the same destiny. So, in a way, this guilt has brought them together on the same page, on the same ground. So he says that at that time when you were a soldier, you saw me as your enemy and nothing else, not a human, not an innocent person, and therefore you have killed me, you have brought death to me, and therefore you shall die eternally, just like me. So he says, the second speaker was killed by this man, by the speaker of our poem, and he says that you had killed me so harshly and or you had killed me the other day, and therefore even in this utter sheer darkness I am able to recognize you. This frown on your face, I remember it at the time of my death in your hands. And he says that I tried to block you, and but physically and mentally I was unwilling. Maybe he was tired, or maybe he just wanted to surrender to fate, or he had already realized that the truth behind these wars, and therefore he wanted to sleep or run away, and the only path was death. Only way he can move out of this battlefield was death, and so he welcomed death. And now, in a way, he has found peace, far away from violence, far away from bloodshed. Strange Meeting is a powerful anti-war poem that explores the devastating effects of war on soldiers and the futility of killing. It emphasizes the humanity of soldiers on both sides of the conflict and questions the morality of war itself. It doesn't focus on heroic deeds or grand victories, but rather shows clearly, evidently, that wars should be treated as something horrifying, as it is completely wasteful and dehumanizing. A war not just destroys landscape in which it's fought, it erodes the natural solidarity between human beings, turning people who might have been friends into mortal enemies, and it robs the soldier who fights beyond their capacity to speak truth to power, to resist the wars in which they give their lives. And the trauma of war lingers even after the battle is over. The tunnel in which this whole scene was going on, it was protected from the battle above it, but it surely had a mark on the soldiers who were stuck below. One could see the fear in the eyes of the soldiers, in the eye, the fear, the anxiety forever etched on the soldiers' face who were down there. War has just merely reduced him to a spectre, a ghost, whereas he could have been much more than, thus portraying war as a force that permanently damages and diminishes both the landscape and the people who fight it. He mourns now on the fact that he won't be able to stop the war in the future. The future wars, he couldn't prevent the wars, or he couldn't stop any of the war that would continue being fought on the world above. Just like themselves, nobody would go on questioning the governments from resorting to violence, and thus war shall continue to deprive people of their humanity. And he is sad that none shall turn away from violence ever. There is no hope, and rather it can be hoped that his death shall be the reason to justify more killing. So one side has lost or the other side has won, and therefore they shall continue the fight in revenge or in greed for more. War has obscured the natural solidarity and friendship that they could have shared. Thus, this is a bitter irony that all the devastation, horror, and dehumanization that is the aftermath of a war is all futile, unnecessary. In fantasizing wars and in thinking, imagining, and witnessing, envisioning a better future, a better world, a world in which the two soldiers could have been friends instead of enemies, the soldier demonstrates just how unnecessarily brutal and horrifying this world actually is. The sacrifices of young lives in the name of patriotism or duty to governments is a senseless waste that robs these individuals of their opportunities for love, enjoyment, familial relationships, and the very many possibilities of great achievements are all lost due to their untimely deaths, who could have otherwise served humanity. So, this poem is a masterpiece which inspires readers to contemplate the true cost of war and the importance of seeking peace. It emphasizes the humanity of soldiers on both sides of the conflict. Beautifully, the two soldiers converse and realize and make others realize the futility of war and its rendering the ideas of enemy and ally irrelevant. The reference to the Titanic wars, it can be according to the Greek mythology, there was a series of 6 wars which were fought, and they were huge wars that were fought between the titans, that is the great ones or the gods, and the demons. These great wars that were there, this could have led to the destruction, to such huge amount of destruction that even after ages and ages after, still the repercussions were felt, wars continued, and the huge deep depressions, the tunnels were still there even after so many years where these people were present. So even after so many ages, or the effects, the marks were still there in which they were hiding. Their tunnel was itself such example, which is evidently proclaiming that how the effects of war are irretraceable and irremovable and permanent.